A Werewolf Shifter Romance, written by Amelia Hart. Chapter 1. Songs for the Lost. The cabin stands at the edge of everything. Behind it, the forest stretches dark and ancient, trees so thick their branches weave together overhead, blocking out the sky. Before it, the meadow slopes gently down toward the village that wants nothing to do with its inhabitants. Astrid has lived in this liminal space for so long, she sometimes forgets what it felt like to belong anywhere else. The morning mist clings to the ground as she steps outside, basket tucked under her arm. Her breath creates small clouds in the cold air. 24 winters have taught her body to move quietly through the world, to take up as little space as possible. Her hair, dark brown and perpetually tangled, falls past her waist in waves she rarely bothers to tame. The wool dress she wears has been mended so many times, the original fabric is hard to distinguish from the patches. They appear before she reaches the tree line. 3 small shapes, translucent as morning fog, padding toward her with silent steps that leave no marks in the dew-covered grass. The spectral pups circle her legs, their ghostly forms passing through the fabric of her dress without resistance. She feels them anyway, a coldness that has nothing to do with the autumn air. "Good morning," she whispers, crouching down to extend her hand. The largest pup, the one with a distinctive scar across its ethereal muzzle, presses its nose to her palm. The sensation is strange. Not quite touch, but not quite nothing either. Like pressing your hand against ice-cold glass. The pups have followed her for nearly a month now. At first, she thought they would fade as the others always did, drifting away once she sang the old songs her grandmother taught her. But these 3 remain, growing more solid with each passing day, more desperate. Their silent howls wake her in the night, though Thyra never stirs. Astrid moves through the forest with practiced steps, gathering the mushrooms and herbs that grow in the shadowed places. The spectral pups follow close, occasionally darting ahead to investigate a scent only they can perceive. She hums softly as she works, an old melody in a language she doesn't fully understand. The words were passed down from her grandmother, who learned them from her grandmother before her. Songs for the dead, for the lost, for the souls caught between one world and the next. The gift came to her young, 5 years old, playing near the stream while her mother washed clothes, and she'd seen an old gray wolf sitting on the opposite bank. She'd laughed and called to it, waving her small hand. The wolf had tilted its head, ears pricking forward, and her mother had grabbed her roughly, demanding to know what she was doing. "The wolf," Astrid had said, pointing. "The pretty gray wolf." There had been no wolf, not one that anyone else could see. The pack elders had been summoned. Tests were performed. Questions asked. Her father, a respected hunter, had stood silent while they debated what to do with her. Some called her blessed, others called her cursed. In the end, fear won over curiosity. A child who saw dead things, who spoke to spirits, was dangerous. Unnatural. They didn't exile her outright. Not then. But the isolation began. Other children were kept away. Mothers crossed to the other side of paths when they saw her coming. Her own mother grew distant, as if afraid the strangeness might be contagious. Only Thyra, 3 years older and fierce as winter storms, refused to abandon her. When their parents died of fever 6 years ago, Thyra moved with her to this cabin without hesitation, choosing sisterhood over acceptance. The basket grows heavy with her gathering. Astrid straightens, wincing at the protest in her lower back. She's been bent over too long. The spectral pups have wandered slightly ahead, investigating something in the underbrush. She watches them, these 3 who refuse to leave, and wonders again what binds them so tightly to the living world. Most spirits she encounters are confused, lost. They drift until someone like her helps them find their way forward. But these 3 are different. They're searching for something specific. She can feel it in the way they watch her, in the urgency of their movements. They want her to understand something, but the message remains frustratingly unclear. "What do you need?" she asks them softly. The largest pup looks back at her, eyes glowing faintly amber even in death. "I'm trying to hear you." "I am." The forest gives no answers, only the whisper of wind through pine needles. By midday, she returns to find Thyra chopping wood behind the cabin. Her sister is everything Astrid is not. Tall, strong, with hair like burnished copper that catches the sunlight. Thyra's hands are calloused and capable, her movements efficient and sure. Where Astrid learned to make herself small, Thyra learned to make herself formidable. Good haul? Thyra asks, not pausing in her work. Enough for a week if we're careful. Astrid sets the basket down near the door. I thought I might take some to the village. Trade for grain. Thyra's axe comes down hard, splitting the log cleanly. You sure that's wise? We need the grain. I can go. You always go. Astrid picks at a loose thread on her sleeve. People should remember I exist. That I'm not just some ghost story they tell their children. Thyra finally stops, turning to face her fully. Sweat glistens on her brow despite the cool air. They'll never see you as anything but strange, Astrid. You know this. I know. The words taste bitter, but I won't hide forever. Her sister's expression softens slightly. You're not hiding. You're surviving. There's a difference. The spectral pups have settled near the cabin's foundation, curled together in a pile of translucent fur. Astrid watches them for a moment, then looks back at Thyra. They're getting stronger. The three who've been following me. I can almost hear them now. Not just feel them. That's happened before? Not like this. Astrid wraps her arms around herself. Something's different about them. Something's coming, Thyra. I can feel it. Then maybe you shouldn't go to the village. Or maybe that's exactly why I should. Astrid manages a small smile. Whatever's coming will find us either way. At least if I go to the village, we'll have grain for it. Thyra shakes her head but doesn't argue further. They both know that once Astrid has made a decision, no amount of sense will change her mind. The village market sits in the center of a collection of timber buildings, smoke rising from cooking fires and forge alike. Astrid arrives in the afternoon when the trading is busiest. She keeps her head down, basket clutched tight, and makes her way to old Marin's stall. The woman has always been willing to trade, if not friendly. The spectral pups follow at her heels, visible only to her. She's learned to ignore them in public, to pretend she walks alone. But their presence is a comfort, however strange that might be. Astrid. Marin's greeting is neutral, neither warm nor cold. What do you have? Nightshade root, properly dried. Yarrow, some winter mushrooms. Astrid begins laying out her goods. I hope to trade for grain. Marin examines each item carefully, her weathered fingers gentle despite their roughness. She nods slowly. Fair enough. The usual amount? If you can spare it. They complete the exchange in silence. Astrid is tucking the small sack of grain into her basket when she feels them. The spectral pups pressing close against her legs, their coldness seeping through her dress. They're agitated, more solid than she's ever felt them. One of them, the smallest, begins to whimper. The sound is barely there, more a sensation than actual noise, but it cuts through her awareness like a blade. Without thinking, she starts to hum. The old song rises from her throat, soft and low, the melody winding through the market's ambient noise. The pups respond immediately, their forms flickering, the whimpering fading to something calmer. What are you doing? A man's voice, sharp and accusatory. Astrid's eyes snap open. She hadn't realized they'd closed. A crowd has formed around her, faces twisted with suspicion and disgust. The man who spoke is Rolf, a hunter whose wife died in childbirth last spring. He's been bitter ever since, looking for someone to blame for all the world's cruelties. Nothing, Astrid says quickly, straightening. I was just singing to the air? Another voice, a woman this time. Just talking to things that aren't there? The spectral pups have moved defensively around her, though none of these people can see them. Astrid forces herself to remain still, to keep her breathing steady. I wasn't bothering anyone. You're always bothering everyone. Rolf steps closer, and the crowd shifts with him. A single organism of shared resentment, walking around with your eyes half closed, muttering your strange words. You bring bad fortune wherever you go. That's not true. My wife died after you came to the market. Rolf's hand moves to the knife at his belt, not drawing it, but making its presence known. 3 cows went dry the week after. Jonas's boy broke his leg. Every time you come here, something bad follows. Coincidence, Astrid manages, though her voice wavers. The spectral pups are pressing so close now their coldness makes her shiver visibly. I've done nothing to any of you. You exist. The words come from somewhere in the crowd, anonymous and cruel. That's harm enough. Old Marin has disappeared into her stall, unwilling to be associated with the confrontation. Astrid clutches her basket, mind racing. The market square has transformed from a place of commerce into a trap. the crowd tightening around her with each passing moment. "You should leave," Rolf says, his hand still on his knife. "The village doesn't want you here. It never has. I'm going." Astrid takes a step backward, and the crowd shifts to block her path. Her heart hammers against her ribs. "Please, I'm leaving." Not fast enough. The first stone strikes her shoulder. It's small, barely larger than a pebble, but the impact sends a clear message. Another follows, then another. The crowd has found its courage in numbers, in shared righteousness. Astrid raises her arms to protect her face, the basket falling from her grip. The grain spills across the dirt. Then Thyra is there, moving through the crowd like a wolf through sheep. She doesn't speak, doesn't threaten, simply places herself between Astrid and the nearest attacker. Her presence alone is enough to make several people step back. Thyra learned young how to make herself intimidating, how to use size and silence as weapons. "Touch her again," Thyra says quietly, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent square, "and you'll discover exactly how much bad fortune one person can bring." Rolf hasn't moved, but his hand has tightened on his knife. "You can't protect her forever. Watch me." The standoff holds for several long heartbeats. Then a new voice cuts through the tension, one carrying the weight of authority. "What's happening here?" Halvard, the pack's leader, steps into the square. He's a man of 50 winters, graying but still powerful, still commanding. The crowd parts for him instinctively. His gaze sweeps across the scene. The spilled grain, Astrid's defensive posture, Thyra's protective stance, and his expression hardens. "She was singing," Rolf says quickly. "Singing to spirits, bringing curses." Halvard looks at Astrid, and she sees calculation in his eyes. Not cruelty exactly, but pragmatism. She's a problem, one that's been simmering for years, and problems have a way of needing solutions. "Is this true?" he asks. "I was humming," Astrid says. "Just a song. Nothing more." "To what?" Halvard presses. "What do you see that we cannot?" The square is absolutely silent now. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. Astrid knows she should lie, should deny everything, but exhaustion and defiance war within her chest. She's so tired of hiding. "The dead," she says clearly. "I see the dead who haven't found peace. I always have." The reaction is immediate. Gasps, angry muttering, hands moving in warding gestures. Halvard's expression doesn't change, but something shifts behind his eyes. Decision made. "Astrid of no pack," he says formally. "You are no longer welcome within the village bounds. If you return, you will be treated as a threat and dealt with accordingly." The words land like blows. Banishment. Not from the pack. She was never truly part of it, but from even the edges of society they'd allowed her to occupy. "That's not fair," Thyra starts, but Halvard cuts her off with a raised hand. "Fair doesn't matter. Safety does. For the good of the pack, she must stay away." He looks at Astrid again, and there might be something like regret in his face, but it's buried deep beneath duty. "You have until sunset to leave village lands. After that, you'll be hunted like any other threat." Thyra grabs Astrid's arm and pulls her away before she can respond. They walk quickly through the parting crowd, leaving the spilled grain behind. No one stops them. No one speaks. They're already ghosts in the eyes of the village. Barely there. Easy to forget. The spectral pups follow, their forms flickering with agitation. The walk back to the cabin passes in silence. Astrid's shoulder throbs where the stone struck, but the physical pain is nothing compared to the hollow ache in her chest. She knew the village hated her, feared her, but having it spoken aloud makes it real in a way it wasn't before. "We'll be fine," Thyra says once they're inside, door barred behind them. "We've managed on our own before. We'll manage again." Astrid nods but doesn't trust herself to speak. She sinks onto the rough bench near the hearth, watching the fire's glow paint shadows on the walls. The spectral pups have arranged themselves around the room, their presence more pronounced than ever. They're watching her with those amber ghost eyes, and she realizes they're afraid. "What is it?" she whispers to them. "What are you trying to tell me?" The largest pup moves closer, pressing its cold nose to her hand. An image flashes through her mind, brief and incomplete. Fire, screaming, small bodies running through smoke. Then nothing, just the cabin's familiar interior and her own thundering heart. "Astrid?" Thyra's voice pulls her back. What just happened? I don't know. She looks down at the pup, who gazes back with desperate intensity. But something's coming. Something that scared them when they were alive, and I think whatever it is, it's almost here. That night, sleep refuses to come. Astrid lies on her narrow bed, listening to Thyra's breathing from the other room, and watches the spectral pups pace restlessly near the door. They never settle, never calm, their ghost forms flickering in and out of visibility. Outside, the forest is alive with night sounds, owl calls and small creature movements, the whisper of wind through branches, normal sounds, familiar sounds. But tonight, they feel different, charged with anticipation. The air itself seems to hold its breath, waiting for something to begin. The largest pup stops its pacing and looks directly at her. Their eyes meet across the dim room, and Astrid feels it again. That desperate need to communicate, to warn, to prepare her for what's coming. The pup's mouth opens in a silent howl, and the sound that doesn't exist still somehow tears through her awareness. Tomorrow, it seems to say. Tomorrow, everything changes. Astrid pulls her thin blanket tighter and watches the pups continue their restless vigil. Whatever storm is approaching, whatever destiny these three spirits have been trying to lead her toward, she'll face it. She has no choice. The dead have claimed her attention, and the dead are never wrong. Chapter 2. The King's Shadow. 3 days pass before the Alpha King arrives. Word reaches the cabin through a traveling peddler who stops at their door, willing to trade news for dried herbs. Halvard has summoned him, the peddler explains, due to unrest in the pack's leadership, challenges to authority, whispers of weakness. Astrid listens from the doorway, while Thyra completes the transaction. The spectral pups have grown increasingly restless, pacing the cabin's perimeter day and night. They sense something approaching, and now she understands what. An Alpha King, Thyra mutters after the peddler leaves, as if Halvard wasn't trouble aplenty on his own. Maybe it's good. Astrid watches the three pups circle each other near the hearth. Maybe someone with real authority will see reason, or maybe he'll be worse. Thyra begins sharpening her hunting knife, the scrape of metal against stone filling the silence. Kings don't get their positions by being reasonable. The next morning, Astrid ventures into the forest despite Thyra's protests. They need food, need herbs, and hiding in the cabin won't change what's coming. The spectral pups follow closer than usual, their translucent forms weaving between the trees like morning fog. She's deep in the woods, basket half full of wild roots, when she feels it. A presence, not the gentle, cold awareness of the spectral pups, but something warm and alive and powerful. Her wolf instincts, dormant for so long beneath her otherness, suddenly surge to awareness. There's an alpha nearby, a strong one. The spectral pups freeze, then rush toward her, pressing close against her legs. Their coldness seeps through her dress, but there's something else in their energy now. Not fear exactly, but recognition. Desperate recognition. Astrid drops to her knees, hands extended toward them. "What is it?" she whispers. "What do you sense?" The largest pup, the one with the scar, pushes its nose against her palm. The sensation is stronger than it's ever been, almost solid. Images flash through her mind, fragmented and unclear. A man's face, blonde hair, blue eyes like winter ice, and overwhelming grief. "Show me," she breathes, closing her eyes. "Help me understand." The old song rises from her throat unbidden, the melody her grandmother taught her weaving through the forest's ambient sounds. The spectral pups respond immediately, their forms growing more solid, more present. She can almost feel fur beneath her fingers now, almost hear their whimpers as actual sound rather than sensation. That's when he steps into the clearing. Astrid's eyes snap open. The man standing 20 paces away is tall, powerfully built, with blonde hair that falls to his shoulders, and a well-kept beard framing a face carved from stone and severity. His eyes are the blue she saw in the vision, cold and assessing. He wears leather and furs in the style of northern warriors, a silver chain bearing 3 wolf teeth visible at his throat. The Alpha King, it has to be. The sheer weight of his presence makes her wolf want to bare its throat in submission. "What are you doing?" His voice carries absolute authority, the kind that expects obedience without question. Astrid scrambles to her feet, basket forgotten. The The spectral pups remain pressed against her legs, invisible to him, but solid to her. I was just gathering herbs. I didn't mean to intrude on... You were singing. He takes a step closer, and she feels the movement like a physical thing. To what? Nothing. No one. The lie tastes bitter. Just a song. His eyes narrow, and she realizes he doesn't believe her. Worse, he's looking at her with an intensity that makes her skin prickle with awareness. Not attraction, she tells herself. Just the natural response to an apex predator's focus. You're the one from the village, he says. The Omega who sees spirits. I'm no one. Astrid takes a step backward and the pups move with her. I was leaving. I won't bother you. Stay where you are. The command in his voice roots her in place before conscious thought can intervene. He moves closer, circling slightly, studying her like she's a puzzle he needs to solve. The three spectral pups watch him with desperate intensity, whining soundlessly. What's your name? He asks. Astrid. And you see the dead, Astrid? There's no point in lying now. Yes. He stops directly in front of her, close enough that she can smell pine and leather, and something wild beneath. His height forces her to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Show me. I can't just... Show me. His hand reaches out, and before she can pull away, his fingers close around her wrist. The contact sends a shock through her entire body, and for one impossible moment, the world tilts sideways. The spectral pups become visible, not fully solid, but there, translucent forms outlined in silver light. The Alpha King sees them. She knows he sees them because his entire body goes rigid, his grip on her wrist tightening almost painfully. Then the connection breaks. He releases her and steps back, hand falling to the knife at his belt. The pups have vanished from his sight again, but the shock on his face remains. What did you do? His voice has gone dangerous, the kind of quiet that precedes violence. Nothing. I didn't... Astrid stumbles over her words, heart hammering. You touched me. Sometimes that lets others see what I see, but it never lasts. I swear I didn't do anything to you. He stares at her for a long moment, then looks at the space where the pups were visible. His expression is unreadable, but she sees something flicker behind his eyes. Pain, maybe. Or recognition. Come with me, he says finally. What? No, I have to... That wasn't a request. He moves toward her with predatory speed, and before she can react, he's swept her up into his arms. The basket falls, herbs scattering across the forest floor. You're coming to the village for questioning. Put me down! Astrid struggles, but his grip is iron. The spectral pups surge around them, passing through his body in agitation. He doesn't react to their presence, can't feel them now that physical contact is broken. Stop fighting. He adjusts his hold, and she realizes with humiliation that he's barely straining. She's always been thin, but in his arms she feels impossibly light, almost insubstantial. You're not going to win this. You have no right. I'm the Alpha King. I have every right. They're halfway back toward the village when Thyra appears. She erupts from the underbrush like a fury, blade already drawn, her face twisted with protective rage. Let her go. The Alpha King stops, still holding Astrid, and his free hand moves to his own weapon. But he doesn't draw it, just watches as Thyra positions herself between them and escape. Her stance that of someone who's fought before and isn't afraid to fight again. You must be the sister, he says calmly. Put her down. Thyra's knuckles are white around her blade's handle. Now. Or what? You'll attack an Alpha King? There's no mockery in his voice, just curiosity. That's a death sentence in every territory. I don't care. Something shifts in his expression. Respect, perhaps. Or recognition of something he understands. Your loyalty is noted. But your sister isn't being harmed. I'm taking her for questioning. Nothing more. I don't believe you. Your belief is irrelevant. He starts walking again, carrying Astrid past Thyra. Follow if you wish. But don't threaten me again. Thyra hesitates only a moment before moving to follow. Blade still drawn. The spectral pups trail behind them all, their agitation growing with each step toward the village. Halvard is waiting in the village square with several pack members when they arrive. His expression shifts from surprise to calculation when he sees the Alpha King carrying Astrid. My lord, Halvard says, bowing slightly. I see you've encountered our local problem. Problem. The Alpha King sets Astrid down but keeps a hand on her shoulder, preventing escape. Explain. This one claims to see spirits, speaks to the dead. Halvard's voice carries clearly across the gathering crowd. She's been disturbing the peace, causing fear among the pack members. We've only just banished her from village lands. For what crime? Witchcraft. Madness. Halvard waves dismissively. Take your pick. The Alpha King's hand tightens slightly on Astrid's shoulder. She feels the pressure through her dress, grounding and confining all at once. And has she harmed anyone? The harm is in her existence, the fear she creates. Has she harmed anyone? The question comes harder this time, edged with impatience. Halvard's jaw tightens. Not directly, but then she's committed no crime. The Alpha King's pronouncement falls into the square like a stone into still water. Your banishment is rejected. The crowd murmurs, confused and angry. Halvard's face darkens. My lord, with respect, you don't understand the situation. This Omega is dangerous in ways that aren't immediately visible. The pack's stability requires, I'll determine what's required. The Alpha King cuts him off cleanly. This Omega is coming with me to my fortress for further investigation. If she truly has abilities beyond the normal, I'll assess them personally. That's not necessary. Astrid finds her voice finally. I'll just leave the territory entirely. You don't need to. Silence. His hand moves from her shoulder to her upper arm, fingers closing around it easily. You'll come with me. You'll answer my questions. And if you're truly what you claim, you'll prove it. Thyra pushes through the crowd, still armed. She goes nowhere without me. The Alpha King looks at her for a long moment, then nods once. Fine. Both of you then. He turns to Halvard. I'll send word when I've completed my investigation. Until then, this matter is closed. Halvard opens his mouth to protest, but something in the Alpha King's gaze stops him. The authority there isn't just positional. It's primal, the kind of dominance that makes even strong wolves back down instinctively. As you command, my lord, Halvard finally says, though the words sound like they cost him. The Alpha King begins walking, pulling Astrid with him. Thyra falls into step on her other side, protective and tense. The spectral pups follow, their translucent forms flickering with agitation that only Astrid can perceive. As they leave the village behind, heading toward the dark line of forest that conceals the Alpha King's fortress, Astrid feels the largest pup press close against her free side. The sensation that flows through her is clearer than ever before. This man. The pup seems to communicate. This man is why we've been waiting. This man is who we've been trying to reach all along. Astrid looks up at the Alpha King's profile, severe and unreadable, and wonders what connection he could possibly have to 3 spectral pups who died long before she ever saw them. What tragedy links him to these desperate spirits who won't rest? She doesn't know yet, but as they disappear into the trees, surrounded by guards who materialized from the shadows, she knows with absolute certainty that she's about to find out. Chapter 3. Ghosts in Stone. The fortress rises from the mountainside like a sleeping giant carved from gray stone. Astrid catches her first glimpse of it through the trees as they climb the winding path, and her breath catches. She'd imagined something crude, perhaps, a warrior's stronghold built for function over beauty, but this structure commands respect with its sheer presence. Towers reach toward the sky, walls thick as 3 men standing side by side, and everywhere the marks of ancient craftsmanship. This isn't just a fortress. It's a statement of power that has endured generations. The spectral pups press close to her legs as they pass through the massive iron gates. Their agitation has grown with each step up the mountain, their translucent forms flickering more rapidly. They sense something here, something that calls to whatever remains of their consciousness. Impressive, isn't it? The Alpha King's voice cuts through her thoughts. He still walks ahead, leading them through the courtyard where guards bow as he passes. My grandfather built the foundations. My father expanded the walls. I've done my part to maintain what they left behind. Astrid doesn't respond. Speaking to him feels dangerous, like stepping too close to a cliff's edge. Thyra walks on her other side, eyes constantly scanning for threats, hand never far from her blade, despite the futility of such a gesture in a fortress full of the Alpha King's warriors. They enter through heavy oak doors into a great hall that takes Astrid's breath away. The ceiling arches high overhead, supported by carved pillars that depict wolves in various stages of transformation. Tapestries cover the stone walls, rich colors somehow both warlike and beautiful. A fire roars in the hearth large enough to stand inside, its warmth a sharp contrast to the mountain cold. This way. The Alpha King gestures toward a staircase carved into the wall itself. They climb, passing several levels, until they reach the towers. Here the corridors narrow, the stone darker, more intimate. He stops at a door and pushes it open. You'll stay here. Both of you. The room beyond is sparse but clean. 2 narrow beds, a washstand, a single window that looks out over the forest they just left behind. Not a prison cell, but not far from it either. You're locking us in? Thyra's hand moves to her blade. The door has no lock. The Alpha King's gaze shifts to her. Patient, but firm. You're not prisoners, but you're not free to leave either. Not until I understand what's happening here. And if we try? Thyra challenges. Then you'll discover how many guards I have stationed in this tower alone. He looks at Astrid then, and something in his expression softens almost imperceptibly. Rest. Clean yourselves. At sunset, you'll join me for dinner. Alone, he adds, looking at Thyra. Your sister and I need to speak privately, before either of them can protest. He's gone, the sound of his boots fading down the corridor. Astrid sinks onto one of the beds, exhaustion finally catching up with her. The spectral pups immediately begin pacing the room, moving through furniture and walls with equal ease. They're searching for something, their ghost forms passing through the door and returning moments later, only to begin the circuit again. What are they doing? Thyra asks, watching the space where Astrid's eyes track movement she cannot see. Looking for something. Someone. Astrid rubs her temples where a headache is building. They're more agitated here than I've ever felt them. Whatever connection they have to this place, it's strong. Connection to the Alpha King, you mean? Maybe. Astrid stands, moving to the window. Below, she can see the courtyard where warriors drill in formation, their movements precise and deadly. Or maybe to someone who was here once. I don't know yet. Thyra sits on the other bed, beginning to sharpen her blade despite having done so that morning. The familiar rasp of metal on stone fills the silence between them. We could leave, she says finally. Tonight. Slip out while they're sleeping. And go where? We're banned from the village. We have no pack, no territory. Astrid shakes her head. Besides, the pups led me here for a reason. I need to understand why. The pups aren't your responsibility. They are, though. Astrid turns from the window. That's what being a soul guide means. The dead who can't rest are always my responsibility, whether I want them or not. Thyra's expression softens slightly. Sometimes I forget you didn't choose this. Neither did you. But you stayed anyway. You're my sister. Where else would I go? The words settle between them, warm and solid. Whatever else happens in this fortress, at least Astrid knows she's not alone. Sunset comes quickly in the mountains. Shadows grow long across the stone floors, and torches are lit throughout the corridors. A servant, a young woman with nervous eyes, comes to collect Astrid and lead her down to dinner. Thyra watches her go with clear reluctance, but even she knows better than to defy a direct order from the Alpha King. The dining hall is smaller than the Great Hall, more intimate, a table set for 2, firelight casting dancing shadows on the walls. The Alpha King stands near the hearth, still wearing his leather and furs, but he's removed his weapons. A gesture of peace, perhaps, or simply practicality for a meal. Sit. He gestures to a chair. You must be hungry. Astrid is, though she's been trying not to think about it. The last proper meal she had was 2 days ago. She sits carefully, aware of how out of place she looks in this room. Her patched dress, her tangled hair, her thin frame. She's never felt her poverty more acutely than in this moment. Food is brought by silent servants. Roasted meat, fresh bread, vegetables she hasn't seen in months. Her stomach clenches with want, but she forces herself to eat slowly, maintaining what dignity she can manage. The Alpha King watches her for a long moment before speaking. Tell me about your gift. Astrid swallows her mouthful carefully. What do you want to know? Everything. How it works. When it started. What you see. He leans forward slightly. The truth, Astrid. I've seen enough in my life to know the difference. So she tells him. The story pours out more easily than she expected. How the gift appeared when she was 5. How her pack rejected her. How she learned from her grandmother before the old woman died. She explains what it means to be a soul guide. how rare they are, how they're born maybe once every few generations. We see the dead who are trapped, she says quietly. Wolves who died with unfinished business, with trauma so severe their spirits can't move forward. My role is to help them find peace, to guide them to whatever comes next. And the three you see now? His voice has gone careful, controlled. What makes them different? They're more solid, more aware. And they've been following me for weeks, growing more desperate. Astrid meets his eyes across the table. They led me to you. I don't fully understand why yet, but I think they've been waiting for you. Something flickers across his face. Pain, quickly suppressed. That's impossible. Is it? She watches him carefully. When I touched you in the forest, you saw them. Only for a moment. But you saw. That's never happened before with anyone who doesn't share my gift. I saw shadows, light playing tricks. You saw 3 wolf pups with amber eyes. The largest had a scar across its muzzle. She watches his reaction, sees him go completely still. You recognize them. The Alpha King stands abruptly, moving to the hearth. His back is to her, shoulders tense beneath the leather. You're guessing, making assumptions based on stories you've heard. I've heard no stories about you. Astrid pushes her plate away, appetite gone. All I know is what they show me. 3 young wolves, brothers I think, who died afraid and in pain. They're looking for something. And every instinct I have says they're looking for you. Stop. They won't rest until... I said stop. The command in his voice makes her flinch. He turns then, and the raw pain on his face steals her breath. You know nothing about what happened? Nothing about what I lost. Astrid stands slowly, hands raised in a gesture of peace. Then tell me. Help me understand so I can help them. They're gone. His voice cracks on the words. 10 years gone. Burned alive in an attack I couldn't prevent, because I wasn't strong enough, fast enough, good enough to save them. 3 brothers I raised myself after our parents died. Children who trusted me to protect them. And I failed. The words hang in the air between them, heavy with decade-old grief. Astrid feels tears prick her own eyes, understanding now the weight he carries, the guilt that has shaped him into the hard man standing before her. They're not gone, she whispers. Not completely. They're trapped, Kale. Stuck between worlds because they died too young, too afraid, too traumatized to find peace. But they haven't abandoned you. They've been searching for you. He stares at her, and she sees him warring between hope and disbelief. How could you possibly know details about them? No one outside my closest circle knew them. Most of the kingdom never even saw them before they died. Because they show me. In visions, in feelings. Astrid takes a tentative step closer. The largest, with the scar. He got it falling from a tree, didn't he? He was trying to catch a bird and misjudged the branch. Kale's breath catches audibly. That's how... The middle one had a marking on his left front paw, white in the shape of a crescent moon, and the smallest loved water, would spend hours playing in streams when you let him. Stop. But this time the word has no force behind it. Please, I'm not trying to hurt you. Astrid is close enough now to see the tears threatening in those ice-blue eyes. I'm trying to help you understand they're still here, still reaching for you. They need something from you. Something only you can give them, before they can finally rest. What? The word breaks from him like a sob. What could I possibly give them now? I don't know yet. But if you let me try, if you trust me enough to make contact again, maybe we can find out together. She extends her hand, palm up, an offering. Let me show you your brothers one more time. Let them see you. Really see you. And maybe they'll be able to show us what they need. Kale stares at her hand for a long moment. The fire crackles in the hearth. Somewhere in the fortress, she hears footsteps passing in the corridor outside. The spectral pups, who have been pacing throughout the dinner, suddenly go still. Waiting. Watching. If you're lying, Kale says finally, his voice rough. If this is some trick, it's not. I swear on whatever remains of my own soul, I'm telling you the truth. He reaches out slowly, his larger hand enveloping hers. The contact sends that same shock through her system as before, and the world tilts sideways. But this time, she's ready for it. This time, she holds onto the connection and pulls. The spectral pups appear between one breath and the next. Not just visible to Kale now, but solid, more real than Astrid has ever seen them. They stand in a line before him, 3 young wolves frozen in the moment of recognition. Then the smallest breaks first, launching itself toward him with a joy that transcends death itself. Kale drops to his knees as all 3 pups swarm him, passing through his body in their eagerness, their cold presence making him gasp. But he's laughing through his tears, reaching out to touch them even though his hands mostly pass through their forms. Eirik, he chokes out, looking at the largest. Torvald. Rune. Each name is a prayer, a remembrance. Gods, I've missed you. I've missed you so much. The pups circle him, whining in that soundless way of ghosts, rubbing against him, trying desperately to make contact they can no longer truly achieve. Astrid maintains the connection, feeling the drain of it in her bones. But she doesn't let go. Not yet. This moment, this reunion, is too important. But she can't hold it forever. Already her vision is starting to darken at the edges, her breathing growing labored. The effort of keeping the veil thin enough for both Kale and the pups to interact is more than she's ever attempted. I have to let go, she manages. It's too much. I'm sorry. Kale looks up at her, and understanding crosses his face. He releases her hand immediately, and the connection breaks. The pups fade from his vision, though Astrid can still see them. They cluster around where Kale kneels, their ghost forms pressing close to him, even though he can no longer see them. She sways on her feet, and suddenly Kyle is there, catching her before she falls. Easy. I've got you. I'm fine. But she's not, and they both know it. That level of communion took more from her than she wants to admit. He helps her back to her chair, then brings her water. His hands are shaking, she notices. The unshakable Alpha King is trembling like a leaf in wind. They're really here, he says, more to himself than to her. All this time. They've been here. They've been looking for you. Astrid sips the water, grateful for it. They need something from you before they can move on. I just don't know what yet. Kale sits heavily in his own chair, scrubbing his hands over his face. When he looks at her again, something has changed in his expression. The skepticism is gone, replaced by something raw and desperate. Can you do it again? Let me see them? Not tonight. Maybe not for several days. She sees his disappointment and hurries to explain. That kind of connection, maintaining it long enough for real interaction, it drains me. I need time to recover. But you can do it again? Eventually? Yes. And maybe, with time and practice, I can figure out what they need. What they're trying to tell us. She meets his gaze steadily. If you're willing to work with me, to trust me. Kale is quiet for a long moment, studying her face as if seeing her for the first time. You're telling the truth about all of it. The gift, the souls, everything. I am. Then I'll protect you. The declaration is firm, final. Whatever you need, whatever it takes to help them find peace, I'll provide it. My fortress, my resources, my own life if necessary. Just help me set my brothers free. Astrid nods, feeling the weight of that promise settle over her. She's been rejected, feared, and cast out her entire life. But here, in this moment, the most powerful alpha in the kingdom has just sworn to protect her. Not because he wants to use her gift for himself, but because she's offering to help those he loved and lost. Thank you, she whispers. They sit in the firelight, the remains of dinner cooling between them, and speak late into the night. Kyle tells her about his brothers, who they were, what they loved, how they died. She listens and learns, storing away every detail that might help her understand what the spectral pups need. And in the corner of the room, visible only to her, 3 young spirits finally rest quietly, as if sensing that hope has been kindled at last. Chapter 4. Blood and Communion. 3 days pass before Astrid feels strong enough to attempt another connection. She spends the time resting, eating the rich food Kale's servants bring, and slowly regaining color in her cheeks. Thera hovers protectively, suspicious of every kindness shown, but even she can't deny that Astrid is being treated better here than she ever was in their own pack's territory. The spectral pups never leave Astrid's side. They've grown calmer since that first night with Kale, as if his acknowledgement of their existence brought them some measure of peace, but there's still urgency in their movements. Still something unfinished that keeps them tethered to this world. On the 4th morning, Kale comes to her door himself, rather than sending a servant. He looks tired, shadows beneath those ice-blue eyes that suggest he hasn't been sleeping well. "Can we try again?" he asks, without preamble. "I need to see them. I need to understand what they want." Astrid nods, rising from where she'd been sitting by the window. Thera makes a sound of protest, but Astrid silences her with a look. "This is why we're here. This is what needs to happen." They go to Kale's private chambers, a large room dominated by a massive bed carved from dark wood. The walls are hung with weapons and pelts, masculine and severe. A fire burns in the hearth, warming the stone space against the mountain cold. "What do I need to do?" Kyle asks, and there's a vulnerability in his voice she hasn't heard before. The Alpha King stripped down to just a man desperate to speak with his lost brothers. "Sit on the floor near the hearth," Astrid instructs, moving to join him. The spectral pups immediately position themselves around them, their translucent forms flickering with anticipation. This will work better if we're both grounded, both open to what's between worlds. Kyle lowers himself to the fur rug spread before the fire, his movements careful. He's wearing simpler clothes today, leather breeches and a loose linen shirt, his weapons set aside. When Astrid settles across from him, their knees almost touching, she sees his hands tremble slightly. "Give me your hands," she says softly, "both of them, and close your eyes." His hands are large and calloused, marked with old scars from battles fought and won. They engulf hers completely, warm and solid. Astrid takes a deep breath, centering herself, reaching for that place deep inside where her gift lives. "Clear your mind," she whispers. "Think of nothing but your brothers. Remember them as they were, their voices, their scents, the sound of their laughter. Hold those memories close, and let everything else fall away." Kale's breathing deepens, slows. She feels the tension leave his shoulders, feels him opening himself to the possibility of connection. The spectral pups move closer, their cold presence making the air around them drop several degrees. Astrid begins to sing. The words are old, passed down through generations of soul guides, a language that predates the kingdoms and speaks directly to the barrier between life and death. Her grandmother used to say the song was older than wolves themselves, given by the first spirits to help their living kin find peace. The melody rises and falls, weaving through the chamber like visible thread. Power builds between her and Kyle, flowing through their joined hands, creating a bridge between worlds. She feels the familiar drain beginning, her energy flowing outward to maintain the connection, but she pushes through it. The spectral pups solidify, not just translucent anymore, but real, present, as close to alive as death will allow. Their amber eyes glow brighter, their forms taking on texture and weight. Astrid sees Kale's eyes snap open, sees the moment he perceives them fully. "Gods," he breathes, his voice breaking. "You're here. You're really here." The largest pup, Eric, approaches first. His ghost form is more solid than the others, the scar across his muzzle clearly visible now. He sniffs at Kale's face, his muzzle passing partially through flesh and bone. The sensation must be strange, uncomfortable. But Kale doesn't pull away. "I'm so sorry," Kale chokes out. "I should have protected you. I should have been there. I'm so sorry." Torvald, the middle brother with the crescent moon marking on his paw, pushes forward next. His tail wags frantically, a motion that would be joyful if not for the translucence of his form. He tries to lick Kale's face, his tongue creating cold spots where it makes contact. Then Rune, the smallest, the one who loved water. He's more hesitant than his brothers, hanging back slightly. Kyle notices and extends a hand toward him, palm up, inviting. "It's all right, little one. I'm here. I'm finally here." Rune launches himself forward, all hesitation forgotten. He climbs onto Kale's lap, or tries to, his form partially sinking through solid flesh. The cold makes Kale gasp, but he doesn't move, just wraps his arms around the space where his youngest brother exists. All three pups swarm him then, trying desperately to make contact, to communicate years of waiting and longing and unfinished business. They pass through his body over and over, their cold presence making him shiver violently, but still he doesn't pull away. Tears stream down his face openly, and he's speaking to them in a stream of consciousness, apologies and memories and love flowing freely. Astrid maintains the connection, holding the veil thin, but the effort is immense. She can feel warmth trickling from her nose, knows without looking that she's bleeding. Her vision is starting to blur at the edges. Darkness creeping in. Kyle. She manages, her voice weak. I can't hold it much longer. He looks at her then, really sees her, and his expression shifts to alarm. Your nose. You're bleeding. I know. It's the price. Black spots dance across her vision. I have to let go soon or... Her words cut off as her strength fails. The connection wavers, and she feels herself tilting sideways. Kyle releases his brothers, reaches across the space between them, and catches her before she hits the floor. The moment he breaks contact with her hands, the spectral pups fade from his sight. Astrid! His voice sounds distant, echoing. Astrid, stay with me. She tries to respond, but consciousness is slipping away like water through her fingers. The last thing she's aware of is being lifted, Kale's arms solid and warm around her, his voice calling for help. When awareness returns, it comes slowly. Soft bedding beneath her, the crackle of a fire nearby. Hushed voices speaking in low tones. Astrid's entire body aches, hollowed out and weak. Opening her eyes feels like lifting stones. Finally. Thyra's face appears above her, relief and anger warring in her expression. You've been unconscious for 8 hours. I told you that connecting was too much, too soon. Worth it. Astrid croaks, her throat dry. Did it work? If by work you mean nearly killing yourself, yes, it worked beautifully. Thyra helps her sit up, pressing a cup of water to her lips. Drink. Slowly. The water is cold and perfect. Astrid drains the cup, then looks around. She's in Kale's chamber, she realizes, lying in his massive bed. The Alpha King himself sits near the hearth, elbows on knees, head in hands. The spectral pups are arranged around him in a protective circle, their translucent forms calm for the first time since she met them. How long can you keep doing this? Kyle asks without looking up. How many times before it kills you? I don't know, Astrid admits. I've never tried to maintain a connection that strong before. Most spirits need far less to communicate, but my brothers need more. They were young when they died, traumatized. The bond between you was powerful. She shifts on the bed, wincing at the protest of her muscles. It takes more energy to bridge that kind of connection. Kyle finally looks at her, and the raw emotion on his face makes her breath catch. I saw them. Really saw them. They're waiting for something. Something I'm supposed to give them or do for them. But I don't know what it is. We'll figure it out. Astrid meets his gaze steadily. But I need to prepare properly. This kind of communion, it requires ritual, materials, time. I can't just keep forcing connections and hoping my body survives. What do you need? The question is immediate, decisive. Whatever it is, you'll have it. So she tells him. Ancient herbs that grow only in specific locations. Candles made from beeswax mixed with ash from sacred fires. Stones carved with symbols her grandmother taught her. The list is long and specific, but Kale listens to every word, committing it to memory. How long will it take to gather everything? He asks. Weeks, maybe. Some of these items are rare. Astrid glances at Thyra, who's watching the exchange with cautious interest. And I'll need time to recover between attempts. My body can only handle so much strain. Then take the time you need. Kyle stands, moving to the bed. He sits on its edge, close enough that she can see the individual strands of blonde in his beard, the exact shade of blue in his eyes. I've waited 10 years to see my brothers again. I can wait a few more weeks if it means doing this properly, if it means keeping you alive. The last words carry weight beyond their surface meaning. Astrid feels her cheeks warm under his gaze, feels something shift in the air between them. This isn't just about his brothers anymore, though she's not sure when the change happened. I'll send word to every territory I control. Kale continues. Any trader, any healer, any wise woman who might have access to what you need. And I'm assigning you permanent protection. He looks at Thyra. You and your sister both. No one will threaten you while you're under my roof. That's not necessary, Astrid starts. But he cuts her off with a raised hand. It is. You're helping me do something impossible. The least I can do is ensure you're safe while doing it. He stands, moves toward the door. Rest today. Tomorrow we'll begin the preparations. And Astrid? He pauses in the doorway. Thank you for giving me those moments with them. I'll never forget it. Then he's gone, leaving her with Thyra and the spectral pups. Her sister sits on the bed, studying her face with knowing eyes. He looks at you differently now. Thyra observes quietly. He's grateful, nothing more. If you believe that, you're more naive than I thought. Thyra smooths the blanket across Astrid's legs. Be careful. Gratitude can shift into other feelings quickly, and Alpha Kings don't do anything by halves. Astrid doesn't respond, but she thinks about Kyle's hands holding hers, the way he caught her before she fell, the tone of his voice when he thanked her. Thyra might be right. Something is growing between them. Fragile and undefined, built on shared grief and impossible communion with the dead. The spectral pups settle near the bed, their presence a cold comfort. Days pass, and true to his word, Kale mobilizes his entire network to gather what Astrid needs. Traders arrive with rare herbs. A wise woman from the Eastern Territories sends stones carved with ancient symbols. A beekeeper delivers candles made according to specifications Astrid barely remembers giving. And through it all, Kyle is there. He sits with her while she prepares materials, asking questions, learning about her gift. He watches as she sings to the spectral pups, his expression soft in ways that have nothing to do with authority or power. He brings her meals himself sometimes, making sure she's eating, recovering, building her strength for what's to come. 2 weeks after their first proper connection, Astrid wakes to find him sitting in the chair by her window, simply watching her sleep. The spectral pups are curled at his feet, as content in his presence as they are in hers. You're staring, she says, her voice still rough with sleep. I'm grateful, he corrects. For you, for this chance, for everything you're risking. She sits up, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. Why does it matter so much? You're the Alpha King. You have everything anyone could want, except my brothers. His voice goes quiet. Except the chance to tell them I'm sorry, that I love them, that their deaths nearly destroyed me. Power means nothing when the people you love are gone. Astrid understands then, truly understands. This man who commands wolves across multiple territories, who makes grown alphas bow with a single look, would trade it all for one more moment with his lost family. The realization breaks something open in her chest. We'll free them, she promises. I don't know how yet, but we will. They'll find peace. Kale meets her eyes across the chamber, and what passes between them is more than gratitude, more than respect. It's understanding, the kind that comes from sharing profound pain and impossible hope. The spectral pups watch them both, their amber eyes glowing softly in the dim morning light, waiting for the moment when communion will become liberation. Chapter 5. Whispers of Betrayal. The first signs of trouble arrive on a cold morning, 3 weeks into Astrid's stay at the fortress. She's in the courtyard helping Thyra practice her blade work, when a commotion at the gates draws their attention. Halvard rides through with a contingent of warriors, his face set in grim lines that speak of unwelcome news. Kale meets him in the Great Hall, and though Astrid isn't invited to the meeting, word spreads quickly through the fortress. The servants talk. The guards whisper. By midday, everyone knows that Halvard has come bearing complaints from the surrounding packs. They're saying you've been bewitched, Thyra reports, having extracted the information from a talkative kitchen maid. That the Alpha King is neglecting his duties, obsessed with a mad Omega who traffics with spirits. Astrid's stomach clenches. She'd known this peace couldn't last, but she'd hoped for more time. What else? Some are calling for your execution. Others want exile. Thyra's hand moves to her blade instinctively. Halvard is urging Kale to distance himself from you, to restore confidence in his leadership. Through the window, Astrid can see the spectral pups pacing restlessly in the courtyard below. They sense the tension, the threat. Their forms flicker more rapidly than usual, agitation making them almost solid in places. That evening, Kale summons her to his private study. He stands by the window when she enters, back rigid with tension. Halvard thinks I'm making a mistake keeping you here. Perhaps he's right. Astrid keeps her voice steady, despite the fear clawing at her throat. I don't want to cause problems for you. You're not causing problems. Others are creating them. He turns to face her, and the anger in his expression takes her breath away. 3 regional alphas are arriving tomorrow. They're demanding an audience, questioning my judgment. This has never happened before. Because you've never protected someone like me before. Because they've never seen me care about anything beyond duty and territory. Kyle moves closer, and she sees exhaustion in the shadows beneath his eyes. They think you've weakened me somehow, made me soft. Have I? He laughs, but there's no humor in it. You've made me feel things I thought died with my brothers. I don't know if that's weakness or the first honest thing I've experienced in a decade. The words hang between them, weighted with meaning neither is quite ready to examine. Astrid looks away first, unable to hold his gaze. What will you tell the alphas? The truth. That you're helping me with a matter of profound personal importance. That you're under my protection. His jaw tightens. And that anyone who challenges that protection challenges me directly. The three alphas arrive with the sunset, their entourages filling the fortress courtyard with unfamiliar faces and hostile energy. Astrid watches from her tower window as they dismount, their movements aggressive and territorial. These are not men accustomed to being told no. Kyle receives them in the great hall with full ceremony. Astrid isn't present for the initial meeting, but she feels its echoes through the fortress. Raised voices carry through stone corridors. Doors slam. By the time servants begin preparing for the formal dinner, the air itself feels charged with coming storm. You're not going, Thyra says flatly when Astrid begins dressing in her cleanest gown. I have to. This is about me. Astrid smooths the worn fabric, wishing she had something finer to wear. Hiding will only make things worse. Hiding might keep you alive. I'm not afraid of them. Well, you should be. Thyra grabs her arm, forcing eye contact. These alphas didn't come here to talk. They came to force Kale's hand, to make him choose between you and his authority. Then he should choose his authority. The words taste like ash. I won't be responsible for him losing everything he's built. Thyra studies her face for a long moment, then sighs. You care about him. More than you're admitting. Astrid doesn't deny it. She can't. Not when her heart pounds at the thought of Kale in danger, when every protective instinct she possesses roars at the idea of him being forced into a corner because of her. The great hall has been transformed for the dinner. Torches line the walls, casting dancing shadows across the gathered faces. The three visiting alphas sit at the high table with Kale, their expressions ranging from suspicious to openly hostile. Halvard occupies a place of honor, his face carefully neutral. Astrid enters with Thyra at her side, and conversation dies. Every eye turns to assess her, to measure the woman who has supposedly bewitched their king. She keeps her chin up, spine straight, refusing to show fear even as her hands tremble. Ah, one of the alphas says, his voice carrying clearly across the hall. The witch herself. How generous of her to grace us with her presence. Careful, Fenrir. Kale's voice cuts like a blade. You're speaking about someone under my personal protection. Protection she shouldn't require if she's truly innocent. The alpha called Fenrir leans back in his chair, studying Astrid with cold calculation. Unless there's something between you two beyond the official story. Astrid takes her seat at a lower table, acutely aware of the scrutiny. The spectral pups have followed her into the hall, their translucent forms weaving between tables that only she can see. Their agitation has grown worse, and she realizes with a start that they're trying to position themselves between her and the visiting alphas. Protecting her, even in death. The meal begins in tense silence. Food is brought, wine poured, but appetites seem scarce. Astrid forces herself to eat, to appear calm and unaffected, though every instinct screams at her to run. Tell me, Omega. Another alpha speaks up, his tone deceptively pleasant. What exactly is your gift? We've heard such varied stories. I see spirits, Astrid replies quietly. Wolves who died without finding peace. I help guide them onward. Convenient. An ability no one can verify or disprove. The third alpha, younger than the others but no less hostile, sneers openly. How do we know you're not simply mad? Or worse, using dark magic to manipulate our king? She's done nothing. Kale starts, but Fenrir cuts him off. With respect, my lord, your judgment is precisely what we're questioning. You've isolated yourself with this girl, neglected correspondence, ignored territorial disputes that require your attention. The king we knew would never allow personal matters to interfere with duty. My brothers aren't a personal matter. They're dead. Fenrir's voice goes hard. Your brothers have been dead for 10 years. And while we all grieved with you, there comes a time to move forward, to focus on the living, rather than chasing ghosts. The words land like physical blows. Kale's hands clench on the table, knuckles going white. Astrid sees the fury building in him. sees the moment his control begins to fracture. "You know nothing about what I've lost," Kale says, voice dangerous and low. "We know you're behaving like a lovesick pup rather than an alpha king." The younger alpha stands, emboldened by wine and perceived righteousness. "This Omega has you so twisted around her finger that you can't see reason. It's pathetic." Kyle explodes from his seat with supernatural speed. In less than a heartbeat, his hand is fisted in the young alpha's collar, dragging him half across the table. Power rolls off him in suffocating waves, eyes flashing molten gold as his wolf surges to the surface. For a terrifying moment, it looks as if he might snap the boy's neck in front of half the court, but then years of discipline slam back into place, his grip tightening without crushing, rage forced into a lethal, controlled line. "I dare you!" The hall erupts. Warriors move toward their leaders, weapons half drawn. Halvard is shouting something about peace, about diplomacy. Thyra has positioned herself in front of Astrid, blade fully drawn now despite the odds. "Kale." Astrid's voice cuts through the chaos, quiet but clear. She stands, moving toward him despite Thyra's protest. "Kyle, please." She reaches him, places one small hand on his arm. The contact sends that familiar shock through her system, and she feels his wolf immediately responding to her touch. The golden glow fades from his eyes. His grip on the young alpha loosens, then releases completely. The young alpha drops to his feet, gasping. Everyone in the hall has witnessed what just happened, seen how easily Astrid calmed their king with a single touch. The implications hang heavy in the suddenly silent space. "This," Fenrir says quietly, his gaze moving between Kale and Astrid, "is exactly what we feared. She has some hold over you, whether magic or manipulation. Either way, it's compromising your ability to lead. If word spreads that the Alpha King is steering policy by the whispers of unseen spirits and the bond of one Omega, our enemies will call this kingdom fractured and weak. Get out." Kyle's voice is deadly calm now, controlled, but beneath it runs currents of barely restrained violence. "All of you. Leave my fortress by dawn or I'll have you removed." Is that a threat? The young Alpha has found his courage again. "You would attack fellow Alphas over this Omega? I would destroy anyone who threatens what's mine." Kyle looks at each of them in turn. "And make no mistake, she is mine to protect. Challenge that again and discover exactly how uncompromising I can be." The three Alphas exchange glances, some silent communication passing between them. Fenrir nods slowly, rising from his seat. "Then you leave us no choice. If you won't restore proper order, we'll be forced to consider whether you're fit to maintain your position as Alpha King." The words are treason, barely veiled. A challenge to Kale's authority that could split the kingdom. Halvard looks stricken, torn between loyalty and political reality. The visiting Alphas file out with their entourages, leaving behind a hall full of shocked witnesses. Kyle stands rigid, staring at the doors through which they departed. When he finally speaks, his voice sounds hollow. "They'll try to depose me, call for a challenge. Then I'll leave." Astrid steps around to face him. "Tonight, before dawn, I'll disappear and they'll have no reason to." "No." His hands come up to grip her shoulders, firm but not painful. "You're not leaving. Kale, they're questioning your right to rule. Your entire position is at risk because of me. I don't care." The words come fierce and raw. "Do you understand? I don't care about any of it if it means sending you away." They're standing too close now. Close enough that she can feel the heat radiating from his body. Can smell pine and leather and something uniquely him. His hands slide from her shoulders to cup her face, tilting it up to meet his gaze. "This isn't just about my brothers anymore," he admits, his voice rough. "Maybe it never was. Maybe from the moment I saw you in that forest, something in me recognized something in you. I don't know how to explain it except to say that you've woken parts of me I thought dead. Kyle, we can't." But her protest dies as his thumb brushes across her cheek, as his face lowers toward hers. He stops with his lips a breath away from hers, giving her choice. For a heartbeat, neither moves. Then Astrid rises on her toes, closing the distance, and their mouths meet in a kiss that sends shockwaves through her entire being. It's gentle at first, almost reverent, as if he's afraid she might break. But when she opens to him, when her hands slide up to tangle in his hair, something shifts. The kiss deepens, becomes hungry, desperate, years of loneliness and grief pouring out between them. When they finally break apart, both breathing hard, reality crashes back. Astrid steps back, hand flying to her lips. This is a mistake. I'm nobody. You're the Alpha King. There's no future in... I don't care, he repeats. Let them challenge me. Let them question. I've spent 10 years being exactly what everyone expected. Strong, hard, unfeeling. And it's made me miserable. You've shown me there's more to life than duty and grief. Before she can respond, a wave of cold washes over her. The spectral pups have converged, their translucent forms pressing against her legs with urgent intensity. Images flood her mind, clearer than they've ever been. She gasps, staggering under the weight of the vision. Kale catches her. What is it? What's happening? They're showing me. She breathes, eyes unfocused. The night they died. Oh gods, I can see it. She's pulled into the memory, experiencing it through the pup's perspective. 3 young wolves running through forest, laughing, playing. Then smoke. Fire. Panic. But beneath the chaos, a face. A wolf she recognizes. Halvard, younger but unmistakable, leading enemy wolves directly to where the pups were hidden. It wasn't just an attack, Astrid whispers, returning to herself. They were betrayed. Someone from your pack led the enemy right to them. Kyle goes absolutely still. Who? She meets his eyes, sees her own horror reflected there. Halvard. Chapter 6. Poisoned Vows. The revelation lands between them like a thunderclap. Halvard. Of all wolves, the man Kale has trusted as his closest advisor, his voice in council, his steady presence since boyhood, is the one who delivered his brothers to their deaths. Kale stares at Astrid as if she's just torn open an old wound with bare hands. Are you certain? His voice comes out raw. You saw him clearly? In the vision, yes. Astrid still feels the echoes of smoke and terror clawing at her awareness. He led the enemy through the forest, straight to where your brothers were hidden. They trusted him. They followed when he called. Kale turns away, moving to the window where moonlight spills across stone floors. His shoulders are rigid, hands clenched into fists at his sides. Halvard was with me that night. On the northern ridge. Or so I believed. He said he'd gone to check the western perimeter, then returned to fight beside me. He lied, Astrid says quietly. He created an alibi while orchestrating their deaths. Why? The word comes out broken. I gave him everything. Authority, respect, a place at my side. What could possibly drive him to murder children? Power, maybe. Fear. Astrid approaches slowly, careful not to crowd him. Or perhaps he never believed in your family's right to rule. Some wolves carry grudges that outlast reason. Kale laughs, but the sound holds no humor. I need proof. Not just visions, no matter how much I trust you. If I move against Halvard on your word alone, the other alphas will claim you've bewitched me completely. Then we find proof. Astrid stands beside him at the window, looking out over the courtyard where torches flicker in the darkness. The pups gave us a starting point. Now we confirm it through other means. How? 10 years have passed. Evidence fades. Records don't. She turns to face him. Patrol logs, duty rosters, witness accounts. If Halvard lied about his location that night, there will be inconsistencies. Something shifts in Kale's expression. The grief gives way to cold calculation, the king reasserting control. You're right. I'll start reviewing the old documents tomorrow. Cross-reference every statement made about that night. And I'll work with the pups, Astrid adds. See if they can show me more details. Names of the wolves who attacked. Anything that might connect back to Halvard. They stand together in the moonlight, united in purpose. But beneath the determination, Astrid feels something else building between them. An awareness that has nothing to do with spirits or revenge. When Kale's hand finds hers, fingers intertwining, the gesture feels natural, inevitable. Thank you, he says quietly, for giving me this chance, for believing me when I needed it most. I believe the pups, she corrects gently. They led me to you for a reason. His thumb brushes across her knuckles. Still, thank you. The moment stretches, charged with unspoken things. Then Thyra's voice cuts through from the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a problem. They turn to find her standing with blade drawn, face grim. One of the servants just tried to deliver wine to Astrid's chamber, said it was a gift from Halvard, thanking her for her service to the king. Kale's entire body goes taut. Where is the servant now? Locked in the guard room. She's terrified, claims she was just following orders. Thyra's eyes narrow. The wine smells wrong. Bitter beneath the fruit. Astrid's stomach clenches. Poison. Most likely. Thyra sheathes her blade. Someone wants you dead before you can complete whatever ritual you're planning. Kyle moves with frightening speed, striding past Thyra into the corridor. Take me to her. Now. The servant is young, barely 20 winters, and she's weeping when they arrive. 2 guards flank her, expressions hard. A clay jug sits on the table between them, its contents dark as old blood. Who gave you the wine? Kale demands without preamble. Master Halvard, my lord. The girl's voice shakes. He said it was a peace offering, that the Omega had been working hard and deserved something fine. Did you see him pour it? No, my lord. It was already sealed when he gave it to me. Kale picks up the jug, uncorks it, and sniffs. His face darkens immediately. Aconite. Wolf's bane. Enough to kill 3 full-grown alphas. He looks at the servant. Did Halvard tell you anything else? Only to make sure the Omega drank it before bed. That it would help her sleep. The girl dissolves into fresh sobs. I didn't know it was poison, my lord. I swear on the moon I didn't know. Kyle studies her for a long moment, then nods to the guards. She's telling the truth. Release her, but keep her under watch. No one speaks to her until this matter is resolved. As they leave the guard room, Astrid sees fury building in Kale's movements, controlled but barely. He's getting desperate, she observes. Good. Kale's voice carries the edge of a blade. Desperate wolves make mistakes. They spend the night reviewing records in Kale's study. Dusty ledgers are pulled from storage, patrol logs spread across every available surface. Thyra stands guard at the door while Astrid and Kale work by candlelight, cross-referencing statements, looking for the cracks in Halvard's carefully constructed alibi. It's Astrid who finds the first inconsistency. Here, she says, pointing to a patrol log dated the night of the attack. Halvard logged his return to the main camp at the 8th bell, but this statement from a warrior named Torben says Halvard didn't arrive until the 9th bell, a full hour unaccounted for. Kale leans over her shoulder, reading quickly. Torben was one of my father's most trusted fighters. He wouldn't lie about something like this. Is he still alive? Yes. Retired to a cottage near the eastern border. Kale's jaw tightens. I'll send for him at first light. If he confirms what's written here, that's one piece of proof. They find more as the night wears on. Small inconsistencies that individually might mean nothing, but together paint a damning picture. Times that don't align. Locations that contradict. A pattern of deception woven through years of loyalty. Dawn is breaking when Thyra finally insists they rest. You're no good to anyone exhausted, she says firmly. Sleep for a few hours. The records will still be here when you wake. Astrid wants to argue, but her body betrays her with a jaw-cracking yawn. Kyle notices and manages a tired smile. She's right. We need to be sharp when we confront him. When? Astrid asks. Not if. When? Kyle confirms. Once I have Torben's testimony and whatever else the pups can show us, I'll bring charges formally, before witnesses. Halvard won't escape justice this time. They separate reluctantly, each to their own chambers. But Astrid finds sleep elusive. The spectral pups pace her room restlessly, their forms flickering with agitation. They sense something coming. Some shift in the currents of fate. She's finally drowsing when the door opens. Astrid sits up, hand reaching instinctively for the small knife Thyra insists she keep under her pillow. But it's Kyle who enters, his face haggard in the early morning light. I can't sleep, he admits. Every time I close my eyes, I see them. My brothers, trusting Halvard, following him into the trap. Astrid shifts, making room on the narrow bed. Sit. Tell me about them. He does, settling beside her with his back against the wall. And as the sun climbs higher, Kale speaks of 3 young wolves who loved to play in streams, who argued over who got the biggest portion of meat, who climbed into his bed during thunderstorms because they were too proud to admit fear to anyone but their older brother. Eric wanted to be a great warrior, Kyle says, voice thick with memory. He practiced with a wooden sword every day, insisted I teach him proper forms even though he was barely old enough to hold the weight. Torvald loved stories. He'd beg anyone who'd listen to tell him tales of the old times, of the first wolves who walked these lands. And Rune, he pauses, swallowing hard. Rune just wanted to make everyone laugh. He was always playing tricks, hiding things, jumping out from behind corners. He drove our tutors mad. They sound wonderful. Astrid says softly. They were everything. Kale's hand finds hers again, gripping tight. When they died, something in me died too. I became this thing. All duty and anger and grief. I forgot how to be anything else. You're remembering now, she points out. Bit by bit. He looks at her then. Really looks. And something shifts in his expression. Without conscious decision, he leans closer. Astrid's breath catches as his intent becomes clear. She could pull away. Should pull away. But she doesn't. The kiss is gentle at first, almost hesitant, as if he's afraid she might shatter. But when she opens to him, when her hand slides up to tangle in his hair, something shifts. The kiss deepens, becomes hungry, years of loneliness pouring out between them. When they finally break apart, both breathing hard, reality crashes back. I shouldn't have done that, Kale says, though he makes no move to pull away. You're under my protection. I'm taking advantage. You're not. Astrid silences him with a finger to his lips. I wanted it too. I'm the Alpha King. You're an Omega with nowhere else to go. The power imbalance alone. I chose to kiss you back. She interrupts firmly. I chose to let you in. Don't take that choice away by deciding I'm too weak to make it. He studies her face, searching for something. Whatever he finds must satisfy him because he exhales slowly, tension leaving his shoulders. Then I'm glad I kissed you, and I'd very much like to do it again. Later, she promises, smiling despite everything. After we deal with Halvard, after we free your brothers, then we can figure out what this is between us. Deal. He kisses her forehead, then stands reluctantly. I should go before Thyra finds me here and decides I'm a threat. Too late. Thyra's voice calls from beyond the door. I already think you're a threat, but I'm choosing to trust my sister's judgment. Don't make me regret it. Kyle grins, the expression transforming his usually severe features. I'll do my best. 3 days pass in careful preparation. Torben arrives from the eastern border, his testimony corroborating what the records showed. 2 other warriors come forward after hearing Torben's account, admitting they'd noticed inconsistencies that night, but were too afraid to question a man of Halvard's authority. Meanwhile, Astrid works with the spectral pups, coaxing more details from their fragmented memories. They show her faces of the attacking wolves. She sketches them as best she can, and Kale identifies 3 as members of a rival pack that was destroyed years ago for repeated raids. Halvard brokered the peace treaty that ended that conflict, Kale says grimly, studying the sketches. He negotiated their surrender, or so everyone believed. Maybe he negotiated something else entirely, Astrid suggests. A deal. Their service in exchange for something he wanted. My brother's deaths would have thrown the succession into chaos. I was young, untested. Some on the council wanted to replace our entire bloodline. Understanding dawns in Kale's eyes. Halvard was positioning himself as the wise elder who could guide a new, weaker king. Or possibly remove me entirely and take power himself. But you didn't break. You got stronger. I became what I thought I needed to be. Hard. Unyielding. His hand cups her cheek. Until you showed me there was another way. On the 4th morning, Kale summons Halvard to the Great Hall. He does it publicly, with witnesses from multiple packs present. The 3 visiting alphas have remained in the territory despite being ordered out, watching and waiting to see what the king will do. Halvard arrives with his usual confidence, though Astrid sees wariness in his eyes when he notes the gathered crowd. My lord, he says, bowing. You summoned me? I did. Kyle stands before his throne, every inch the Alpha King. I have questions about the night my brothers died. Questions that require immediate answers. The hall goes silent. Every wolf present understands the significance of this moment. Halvard's expression remains calm, but Astrid sees his hands clench briefly at his sides. Of course, my lord. Though I'm not sure what I can add after all these years. You logged your return to camp at the 8th bell, Kale says. Yet multiple witnesses place you arriving at the 9th bell. Explain the discrepancy. Halvard doesn't miss a beat. Memory fades over time, my lord. Perhaps the witnesses are mistaken about the hour. It was a chaotic night. 3 separate witnesses, all with the same recollection. Kale's voice remains level, but power thrums beneath each word. Were they all mistaken? Or were you lying about your location? My lord, I would never... You were seen speaking to members of the Greyfang pack days before the attack. Kale continues relentlessly. The same pack that killed my brothers. The same pack you claimed to broker peace with afterward. What were you discussing with them? Halvard's composure finally cracks. This is absurd. Are you truly accusing me based on decade-old gossip and the ravings of a mad Omega? The insult to Astrid hangs in the air. Kyle descends from the dais slowly, each step deliberate. When he reaches Halvard, he towers over the older wolf. Astrid isn't mad. She's a soul guide, and my brother's spirits have shown her the truth of that night. They watched you lead their killers straight to them. Spirits. Halvard spits the word. You're condemning me based on ghost stories? I'm condemning you based on evidence. Kale corrects coldly. Testimonies, inconsistencies in your own accounts, a pattern of deception that spans years. He looks at the gathered alphas. Witness statements will be provided to any who wish to review them. The facts speak clearly. Halvard's face transforms, rage replacing calculation. You would believe her over me? A nobody Omega over your father's most trusted advisor? I believe the truth, Kale says. Something you haven't spoken in a very long time. For a moment, it seems Halvard might continue denying. Then something in him breaks. His shoulders straighten, and when he speaks again, his voice carries bitter pride. Your brothers were weak. Your father was weak. The entire bloodline had grown soft, unsuited to rule in a world that demands strength. The confession strikes like lightning. Gasps echo through the hall. Even the visiting alphas look stunned. So you killed them. Kale's voice has gone dangerously quiet. 3 children who trusted you. I did what was necessary. Halvard's face twists. I thought removing the weakest links would force you to become strong. And it worked, didn't it? You became the Alpha King we needed. Ruthless, unyielding. Until she arrived and ruined everything. He lunges toward Astrid with supernatural speed, blade appearing in his hand from nowhere. Thyra moves to intercept, but Halvard is faster, driven by desperation. He doesn't reach her. Cal transforms mid-stride, his massive white wolf form slamming into Halvard's human body with crushing force. They go down in a tangle of fur and fury, Halvard struggling to shift while Kale's teeth close around his throat. Don't kill him, Astrid shouts. Not until the ritual. Your brothers deserve to see justice done properly. Kale's wolf pauses, jaws still locked on Halvard's throat. For a moment, base instinct wars with reason. Then slowly, he releases his grip and steps back, allowing Halvard to collapse, gasping to the stone floor. Guards move immediately, binding Halvard with chains. He doesn't resist, just stares at Kale with hate burning in his eyes. You'll never be rid of me, he rasps. I'm in everything you've built, every decision you've made. I shaped you as much as your precious dead brothers. You shaped nothing, Kale says, human again, naked and uncaring. You were just another obstacle to overcome. And now you're finished. Halvard is dragged away to the dungeons. The hall erupts in conversation, alphas and witnesses alike processing what just occurred. But Astrid only has eyes for Kale, who stands alone at the center of the chaos, victorious but hollow. She goes to him, offering a blanket one of the servants has brought. He wraps it around himself mechanically, still staring at where Halvard disappeared. It's not done yet, she reminds him softly. One more step, the ritual. Give your brothers the closure they need. Kyle nods slowly. When his eyes finally focus on her, she sees grief and rage and love all tangled together. Tomorrow night. Full moon. We end this. Around them, the spectral pups circle restlessly, waiting for the moment when truth will finally set them all free. Chapter 7. Moonlit Reckoning. The fortress stands beneath the full moon when Astrid wakes. She's barely slept, mind circling endlessly around what tonight will demand. The ritual materials are already prepared, laid out in the tower room with careful precision. Dried herbs bundled with twine, candles formed from beeswax mixed with ash from sacred fires, stones carved with symbols that predate written language. Everything she needs to tear open the veil between worlds and walk her charges through to the other side. Thyra finds her at dawn, still organizing supplies with hands that won't stop trembling. You don't have to do this, her sister says quietly. We've proven Halvard's guilt. The pups showed everyone what happened. Their purpose is fulfilled. Their purpose is to find peace, Astrid corrects. She ties off another herb bundle, the familiar motions grounding her, showing the truth was only part of it. They need to be released properly, guided through the passage. Otherwise, they'll just keep wandering, trapped by trauma even though justice has been served. And if the ritual goes wrong, if you can't handle the drain, Astrid meets her sister's eyes, then you make sure Cale understands it wasn't his fault. That I chose this. Thyra's jaw tightens, but she nods once. They've always understood each other in ways that don't require words. Cale arrives as the sun climbs higher, his face drawn with exhaustion. He hasn't slept either, Astrid realizes. Dark circles shadow those ice-blue eyes, and his movements carry a tension that speaks of barely controlled emotion. The circle of stones is prepared, he says without preamble. Guards are posted on every approach. Halvard is secure in the dungeons, but I'm not taking chances. If anyone tries to disrupt this ritual, they'll have to go through an entire pack first. Good. Astrid finishes packing her supplies into a leather satchel. We'll need to begin at moonrise. The veil is thinnest then, and the pup's connection to this world is already weakening. If we wait too long, they might slip beyond my reach entirely. Cale moves closer, his hand coming up to cup her face. The gesture is tender, almost reverent. After tonight, this is done. My brothers will be free, and you'll never have to drain yourself like this again. After tonight, everything changes, she agrees softly. For all of us, the day passes in tense preparation. Warriors sharpen blades and check armor, though the enemy they're guarding against isn't one that steel can stop. The spectral pups pace the fortress restlessly, their translucent forms flickering with increasing urgency. They know, Astrid realizes. They understand that tonight is their last chance. As sunset approaches, Astrid bathes and dresses in simple wool, dark blue and unadorned. She braids her hair back from her face, wanting nothing to obscure her vision when the ritual begins. The mark on her wrist, the crescent moon birthmark she's carried since birth, seems to glow faintly in the dimming light. A soul guide's brand, her grandmother called it. Tonight, that mark will burn. The procession to the stone circle begins as full darkness falls. Cale walks at Astrid's side, with Thyra just behind, and a contingent of guards fanning out around them. The forest is silent as they pass, as if every living thing holds its breath. Even the wind has stilled. The circle of standing stones rises from the forest floor like ancient teeth, each monolith twice the height of a tall man. Frost glimmers on the rock faces despite the season, and the air inside the circle feels different, thinner somehow, more brittle. This is a place where the boundary between worlds has always been weak, worn down by centuries of blood and oath and execution. Perfect, Astrid murmurs, setting down her satchel. The land here remembers death. It'll make the passage easier. She begins arranging the ritual space with methodical care. 7 candles at 7 points around the circle's interior. Herbs scattered in specific patterns that map the journey from death to whatever lies beyond. The carved stones placed at cardinal directions, their symbols facing inward. Finally, she takes the small vial of her own blood and traces a circle within the circle, binding the space. Cale watches in silence, but she feels his presence like a physical weight. The spectral pups have taken positions just outside the blood circle, waiting. Their forms are brighter than she's ever seen them, almost solid, as if the moon's power is giving them temporary strength. She remembers the healer's blunt warning hours earlier in the infirmary, the way the older woman had folded her arms and said this ritual would scrape Astrid down to the bone, that there would be no gentle collapse this time if she pushed too far. Kyle had listened to every word, jaw tight and eyes dark, and in the end, he had not forbidden her. He had only said he would rather face her honest fury than cage the one thing she was born to do. It's time, she says, lighting the first candle. The guards need to stay outside the stone circle. No one crosses the boundary once I begin, no matter what happens. If the ritual is interrupted, the pups could be torn apart by the disruption. Scattered so completely they'd never reform. Understood. Cale turns to address the assembled guards, his voice carrying the absolute authority of kingship. Form a perimeter around the stones. Nothing and no one passes. That's an order. The guards move into position, creating a living wall between the ritual space and the dark forest beyond. Thyra takes her place among them, hand on her sword hilt, eyes scanning for threats. Astrid lights the remaining candles one by one, speaking words in the old language as each flame catches. The air begins to shimmer, reality bending around the ritual space. She feels the veil thinning, feels the boundary becoming permeable. "Kyle," she says quietly, "I need you inside the circle with me. The pups need to see you, need to feel your presence one last time before they can let go." He steps across the bloodline without hesitation, moving to stand behind her. When his hands settle on her shoulders, she feels the familiar jolt of connection. Their energies begin to flow together, the bond they've been building over these weeks suddenly blazing into full focus. Astrid begins to sing. The melody her grandmother taught her rises into the still air, each note perfectly pitched to resonate with the space between heartbeats, between breaths, between life and death. The spectral pups respond immediately, their forms brightening until they're almost blinding. She reaches deeper into her gift than she's ever dared, pulling the veil so thin it becomes transparent. The boundary between worlds dissolves, and suddenly, the stone circle exists in two places at once. Here, in the mortal realm beneath the full moon, and there, in the gray space where spirits wait. The three pups step into the circle, and for the first time since their deaths, they're completely solid. Real. Kale gasps behind her, his grip on her shoulders tightening. "Gods," he breathes. "I can see them. Truly see them." Eric, the largest with the scar across his muzzle, approaches first. His golden eyes meet Kale's, and an entire conversation passes in that look. Forgiveness. Love. Release. He presses his head against Kyle's hand, and this time there's actual contact. Warm fur under living fingers. Torvald and Rune follow, swarming Kyle with desperate affection. They're puppies again in this moment, freed from the trauma of their deaths. Just three young wolves saying goodbye to the brother who raised them. Kyle sinks to his knees, arms wrapping around them, tears streaming openly down his face. "I'm so sorry," he chokes out. "I'm so sorry I couldn't save you. I'm sorry it took so long to understand. I'm sorry for everything." Eric licks his face once, a gesture of pure forgiveness. The message is clear even without words. They never blamed him. They were never angry. They just wanted him to know the truth, to see justice done, to be freed from the chains of their traumatic deaths. Astrid maintains the connection, holding the veil open through sheer force of will. The drain is immense, worse than anything she's experienced before. Her nose begins to bleed, warm trails running down her lips and chin. Her vision darkens at the edges, but she holds on, giving Kale and his brothers these final moments. A sound from beyond the circle breaks the peace. Shouts, the clash of steel on steel. Astrid's concentration wavers, the ritual flickering dangerously. "Don't stop," Kale orders, his voice commanding even through grief. "Whatever's happening, the guards will handle it. Finish the ritual." But the disturbance grows louder. Through her fading vision, Astrid sees guards engaging with attackers emerging from the forest. Mercenaries, she realizes with sinking dread. Halvard must have arranged this before his capture, a final act of spite in case his plans failed. One mercenary breaks through the line, sprinting toward the stone circle with a blade drawn. He's aiming for Astrid, clearly understanding that killing her will shatter the ritual completely. Thyra intercepts him with brutal efficiency, her blade finding his throat before he gets within 5 paces of the boundary, but the disruption is enough. Astrid's concentration splinters, and the ritual begins to collapse. No! She forces more power into the working, drawing on reserves she doesn't have. The blood mark on her wrist ignites with actual fire, pain searing up her arm. Not yet. They're not through yet. The spectral pups flicker, their solid forms becoming translucent again. Panic floods their eyes. They're being pulled back, dragged toward the gray space before they've completed the passage. If that happens, they'll be trapped forever, scattered by the interrupted ritual into fragments that can never reform. Astrid makes a decision. She reaches for the one source of power she hasn't yet tapped. The mate bond. The connection between her soul and Kale's, forged in blood and desperation and love. "Kale," she gasps. "I need your strength. All of it. Open the bond completely." He understands immediately. She feels him drop every barrier, every shield, flooding the connection with raw energy. His power rushes into her like a tidal wave, overwhelming and perfect. Astrid channels it into the ritual, using his strength to shore up her failing grip on the veil. The pups solidify again, their forms stabilizing. But the cost is staggering. Astrid feels her body beginning to shut down, pushed far beyond its limits. She's burning out, consuming herself to fuel the working. Almost there, she whispers, blood dripping from her nose and ears now. Just a little more. She completes the final verse of the song, the words that open the true passage. Light floods the circle, golden and pure, descending from the sky itself. The pathway between worlds manifests as a shimmering bridge of radiance. The three pups look at Kale one last time. Eric's tail wags slowly, a gesture of pure joy. Then together, they turn and walk onto the bridge. Their forms dissolve into light, ascending along the pathway until they vanish into brilliance. The ritual completes. The veil snaps back into place. Astrid collapses, consciousness fleeing as her body finally gives out completely. She doesn't feel Kyle catch her. Doesn't hear his anguished shout for a healer. Doesn't sense Thyra running to their side, or the guards finishing off the last of the mercenaries. All she knows is darkness and peace and the knowledge that she succeeded. The pups are free. After 10 years of waiting, they finally found their way home. When awareness returns, it comes slowly. Soft bedding beneath her. The crackle of a fire nearby. The scent of herbs and healing. She forces her eyes open to find herself in Kale's chambers, dawn light spilling through the windows. Kale sits beside the bed, head bowed, her hand clasped in both of his. He looks haggard, as if he hasn't moved or slept since the ritual ended. When he senses her stirring, his head snaps up, hope and fear warring in his expression. Astrid. Her name comes out as a prayer. Thank the gods. The healer said you might not wake. How long? Her voice is barely a rasp. 2 days. He brings her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her palm. You've been unconscious for 2 days. Your body was so depleted, they weren't sure you'd recover. Memory floods back. The ritual, the completion, the light. The pups? She asks urgently. Did they make it through? They're gone. Kale confirms, and his smile is radiant through his exhaustion. Truly gone. I can feel it. The grief is still there, but the guilt, the unfinished business, it's lifted. You freed them, Astrid. You gave them peace. Relief washes through her so powerfully that tears spring to her eyes. Good. That's good. What you did, Kyle continues, voice rough with emotion. Drawing on the bond like that, risking everything to complete the ritual. I've never seen anything so brave, or so reckless. They deserved their peace, she says simply. Whatever it cost. It nearly cost your life. His thumb strokes across her knuckles. Don't do that to me again. I've lost enough people I love. The word hangs in the air between them. Love. Neither has said it before, though it's been building for weeks. Astrid meets his eyes, sees everything reflected there. Grief and gratitude, and fierce devotion. I love you too, she whispers. For what it's worth. His kiss is gentle, mindful of her weakened state, but no less powerful for its restraint. When they part, both are smiling through tears. Halvard? She asks after a moment. Executed at dawn this morning. Witnessed by all 3 regional alphas and representatives from every major pack in my territory. Kale's expression hardens. His betrayal is now a matter of public record. No one will question the justice of it. And the mercenaries? Dead or captured. Your sister cut through them like they were wheat. Pride enters his voice. She defended that circle with everything she had. I'm making her my head of personal guard. Astrid laughs weakly. She'll love that. More opportunities to threaten people who look at me wrong. They sit in comfortable silence for a while, hands intertwined, listening to the fortress wake around them. Finally, Kale speaks again. When you're healed, I want to perform a proper mate ceremony, before witnesses, with all the traditional rites. I want everyone to know you're mine and I'm yours. And here I thought we already had a bond. She teases gently. We do, but you deserve the ceremony too. The recognition. The celebration. He brings her hand to his chest, pressing it over his heart. You saved my brothers. You saved me. Let me give you this. How can she refuse? Yes, Astrid says simply. When I'm healed, we'll have your ceremony. His smile is brighter than the dawn. Chapter 8. New Beginnings. 3 weeks pass before Astrid is strong enough to walk without assistance. The ritual drained her so completely that her body needed time to remember basic functions: eating, sleeping, moving through space without the world tilting dangerously. The fortress healer visits daily, bringing bitter teas and poultices that smell of mountain herbs. But it's Kale's presence that heals her most. He sits beside her bed for hours, reading to her, or simply holding her hand while she drifts in and out of consciousness. The mate bond between them has strengthened during her recovery. She feels him constantly now, a warm presence at the edge of her awareness. His emotions bleed into hers, and vice versa. When he's in council meetings dealing with tedious territorial disputes, she feels his impatience. When she wakes from nightmares of the ritual gone wrong, he appears within minutes, drawn by her distress even if he was on the other side of the fortress. This is going to take some getting used to, Astrid admits one morning as Kyle helps her walk the length of his chambers. Her legs shake with effort, but she's determined to regain her strength. The bond? He steadies her when she stumbles, his arms solid around her waist. Or having someone care about you. Both. She leans into his support, grateful and frustrated in equal measure. I've spent so long being alone, being rejected. Sometimes I forget that's not my reality anymore. Then I'll remind you. He guides her to sit on the edge of the bed, kneeling to examine her face with concern. Every day if I have to. You're not alone, Astrid. You're not rejected. You're mine, and I'm yours. And nothing will change that. The certainty in his voice makes her chest tighten with emotion. What did I do to deserve you? You freed my brothers. You saved my soul. His thumb brushes across her cheek. You let me learn how to feel again. If anything, I should be asking what I did to deserve you. She kisses him then, slow and sweet, pouring everything she can't yet say into the contact. When they part, both are smiling. Thyra enters without knocking, as has become her habit. She's wearing the uniform of the king's personal guard now, leather armor fitted precisely to her frame, a sword of exceptional quality at her hip. The position suits her, Astrid thinks. Her sister has always been a protector at heart. The council wants to know when you'll be well enough for the mate ceremony, Thyra announces without preamble. Apparently 3 regional alphas, 5-pack leaders, and approximately 24 dignitaries are waiting for invitations. Astrid groans. Can't we just do something quiet? You, me, Kale, and a few witnesses? You're mating the Alpha King, Thyra points out with barely concealed amusement. Quiet isn't an option. This ceremony is as much political as personal. Every pack in the kingdom needs to see you accepted as Luna. She's right, Kyle admits reluctantly. I wish we could skip the spectacle, but my position demands certain traditions. The ceremony legitimizes our bond in the eyes of the kingdom. It shows everyone that you're not just my mate, but they're Luna, my equal in authority. The weight of that settles over Astrid like a physical thing. Luna. She's gone from being a rejected Omega, feared and isolated, to being the highest-ranking female in the kingdom. The change is so dramatic it still doesn't feel real. When? She asks, because she knows delay will only make the anxiety worse. 2 weeks, Kyle suggests. That gives you time to regain your full strength, and gives the council time to organize appropriately. He grins suddenly, the expression transforming his usually serious face. Also gives time for a seamstress to make you a proper dress. You're not standing before the kingdom in patched wool. Despite her nerves, Astrid laughs. What's wrong with my dress? Absolutely nothing. I'd mate you if you were wearing rags. His expression softens. But you deserve beauty. Luxury. Everything you've been denied your entire life. Let me give you this. How can she argue with that? Fine. 2 weeks. But if anyone makes this more complicated than it needs to be, I'm holding you responsible. The 2 weeks pass in a blur of preparation. Seamstresses descend on Astrid with fabric samples and measuring tapes, creating a gown of deep blue wool so finely woven it feels like water against her skin. Silver embroidery traces patterns of wolves and moons across the bodice and hem. It's the most beautiful thing she's ever owned. The fortress itself transforms. Servants hang garlands of pine and winter flowers throughout the great hall. The stone circle where the ritual took place is cleaned and prepared. As tradition demands, the mate ceremony occur in the same sacred space where the bond was formed. Guests begin arriving days in advance, filling every available chamber. Astrid meets them all, standing at Kale's side during formal dinners and receptions. The 3 regional alphas who once questioned his judgment now bow respectfully to her. Word has spread about the ritual, about how she freed the trapped spirits of Kale's brothers and exposed Halvard's decade-old betrayal. Some still fear her gift, but that fear has transformed into something closer to reverence. "They're calling you the soul guide Luna," Thyra reports one evening, while helping Astrid prepare for yet another formal dinner. "Some are saying you're blessed by the moon goddess herself. That's ridiculous." Astrid fidgets with the simple silver circlet Kale insisted she wear to these events. "I'm just a woman with an unusual gift. You're more than that now." Thyra's hands are gentle as she arranges Astrid's hair. "Whether you wanted it or not, you've become a symbol. The Omega who rose from nothing. The outcast who became Luna. People will tell your story for generations." The thought is both humbling and terrifying. Astrid has never wanted fame or legend. She just wanted to use her gift to help the dead find peace. And maybe, if she was very lucky, find some measure of peace for herself. The night before the ceremony, Kale takes her to the stone circle under darkness. Torches line the perimeter, casting dancing shadows across the ancient monoliths. The space feels different now. Lighter somehow, as if the successful ritual cleansed something old and dark from the land. "I wanted to show you something," Kale says, guiding her to the center where the blood circle once bound the ritual space. "Look up." She tilts her head back and gasps. The stars are brilliant tonight, the full moon bright enough to cast clear shadows. But more than that, there's a quality to the light that seems almost alive, shimmering with colors that shouldn't exist in natural moonlight. "The pups," she breathes, understanding instinctively. "They're saying goodbye, or thank you." Kale's arm slides around her waist, pulling her against his side. "I feel them sometimes, at the edges of my awareness. Not trapped anymore, but still watching, still caring." They stand together in silence, watching the impossible light dance across the sky. Astrid feels a deep peace settle over her soul. This is why she was born with her gift. This is what all the years of rejection and fear were leading toward. She freed 3 spirits who desperately needed release, and in doing so, freed the man who loved them. "I'm terrified for tomorrow," she admits quietly. "What if I mess up the ceremony? What if I say the wrong words or trip over my dress or... Then everyone will see that you're human." Kyle turns her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "They don't need you to be perfect, Astrid. They need you to be real. To show them that strength doesn't mean being flawless or untouchable. It means being brave enough to keep going even when you're scared. You're really good at this encouragement thing." She manages through the lump in her throat. "I've had practice. You've needed a lot of encouraging lately." His smile is teasing but warm. "Now come on. You need rest before tomorrow. Can't have my Luna falling asleep during her own ceremony." The ceremony day dawns clear and cold, the sky so blue it hurts to look at. Astrid wakes alone in her chambers. Tradition demands the mates spend the night before separated, but she feels Kale through the bond, steady and calm, radiating confidence that helps settle her nerves. Thyra arrives with the seamstresses, and together they dress Astrid in the blue gown. Her hair is arranged in elaborate braids woven with silver thread, and the circlet is replaced with a crown of winter flowers and pine. She barely recognizes herself in the polished bronze mirror. "You look like a Luna," Thyra says, her voice thick with emotion. "Our grandmother would have been so proud." Astrid grips her sister's hand, grateful beyond words for the one person who never abandoned her, never doubted her, never treated her as anything less than family. The procession to the stone circle begins at midday. Astrid walks alone as tradition requires, with Thyra and the King's Guard flanking her at a respectful distance. The path through the forest has been cleared and decorated, creating a processional way lined with witnesses. Wolves from every territory in the kingdom have gathered to observe this moment. As she approaches the circle, she sees Kale waiting at its center. He's dressed in ceremonial armor, polished leather and silver that catches the sunlight. His hair is pulled back from his face, the blonde beard neat and trim. He looks every inch the Alpha King, powerful and commanding. But when his eyes find hers across the distance, they soften with pure love. The ceremony itself is ancient. Words passed down through generations of wolves. An elder from one of the oldest packs conducts it, speaking the binding phrases in the old language while Kyle and Astrid stand together at the circle's heart. They exchange vows, not the bond itself, which already exists between them, but public promises to honor, protect, and cherish each other for all the days of their lives. When the elder calls for the marking, Kale bares his throat in a gesture of absolute trust. Astrid's canines lengthen instinctively, and she places her mark on his neck with careful precision. The mate bond, already strong, blazes into something transcendent. She feels him completely, every emotion, every thought, every part of his soul laid bare to hers. Then he marks her in return, his teeth gentle despite their strength, placing his claim over the same spot where he bit her weeks ago to save her from poison. The bond solidifies into something permanent and unbreakable. They are truly one now, mated in body and spirit, recognized by law and tradition and every witness present. The crowd erupts in howls of celebration as the elder raises their joined hands. "Behold your Alpha King and his Luna," he proclaims, "mated and bound, now and forever." The feast that follows lasts well into the night. Food and drink flow freely, and for the first time in living memory, the fortress rings with genuine laughter and joy. Astrid sits at the high table beside Kale, accepting congratulations from pack leaders and dignitaries who once would have spat at her feet. Near midnight, as the celebration shows no signs of slowing, Kyle leans close to murmur in her ear, "Want to escape? I'd very much like to have my mate to myself." Astrid grins, warmth flooding through the bond. "Yes, please." They slip away quietly, leaving Thyra to manage the revelry and retreat to Kyle's chambers. Their chambers now, Astrid realizes. She's moved all her few possessions here over the past weeks, making this space truly theirs. Kale locks the door behind them and pulls her into his arms, kissing her deeply. When they finally break apart, both breathless, he rests his forehead against hers. "My Luna, my mate, my love, yours," she agrees simply. "Always yours." They make love slowly, savoring every touch and kiss, the bond between them amplifying every sensation, until Astrid feels like she might shatter from the intensity. Afterwards, they lie tangled together, skin warm and bodies perfectly fitted. "I have something to tell you," Astrid says after a while, nerves fluttering in her stomach. Kyle props himself up on one elbow, concern flickering across his face. "What is it?" "I'm pregnant." The words come out in a rush. The healer confirmed it this morning. 2 months along, she thinks, which means it happened right around when you gave me the mate bond to save me from the poison. For a moment, Kyle simply stares at her, processing. Then his face transforms, joy and wonder, and a touch of fear all mingling together. "A pup? We're having a pup?" "We are." She searches his expression anxiously. "I know it's fast. I know we've barely had time to adjust to being mated. But..." He silences her with another kiss, this one fierce and claiming. "But nothing," he says against her lips. "A pup is a blessing. Our pup will be loved and protected and cherished every single day of their life." Tears spill down Astrid's cheeks, relief and happiness overwhelming her. They'll have everything we didn't. Safety. Family. A place to belong. "They'll have you as a mother," Kyle says, hand moving to rest gently over her still flat stomach. That alone makes them the luckiest pup in the kingdom. They fall asleep like that. Kale's hand protective over their growing child, the mate bond humming contentedly between them. Winter bleeds slowly into the first shy promises of spring, and then into the lazy heat of early summer. Days stack quietly on top of one another. Training sessions in the courtyards. Council meetings that stretch late into the evening. Nights spent tracing constellations of old scars and new hopes across each other's skin, until the memory of living on the knife's edge of exile feels distant, but never erased. Months pass in contentment. Astrid's pregnancy progresses normally, her body recovering fully from the ritual's drain and taking to the new life growing within her. She establishes a sanctuary in one of the fortress towers for rejected Omegas, providing shelter and training for those who have nowhere else to go. Kyle supports the project completely, even passing new laws that make it illegal to exile pack members simply for being different. The kingdom flourishes under their joint rule. Kale's strength, tempered by Astrid's compassion, creates a balance that benefits all wolves. Trade routes expand, disputes are settled more peacefully, and for the first time in generations, the various packs begin to trust their Alpha King not just to rule, but to care. On a clear autumn evening, Astrid stands on the fortress ramparts, watching the sun set over the mountains. Her belly is round now, the pup within active and strong. Kale joins her, wrapping his arms around her from behind, hands settling over where their child grows. "Do you ever miss it?" he asks quietly. "Your old life? The quiet cabin in the woods?" Astrid considers the question seriously. "Sometimes," she admits. "Life was simpler then. Lonelier, but simpler. Do you regret this? Us?" "Never." She turns in his arms to face him. "You gave me everything I never knew I wanted. A home, a family, a purpose beyond just surviving." She touches his face, tracing the line of his beard. "I love you, Kale. I love our life. And I can't wait to meet our pup. Neither can I." He kisses her forehead, the gesture tender. They'll be strong, brave, compassionate. Everything their mother is. And arrogant, stubborn, and protective, Astrid teases. Everything their father is. They stand together as darkness falls, watching stars emerge across the vast sky. Somewhere in that endless expanse, 3 young spirits rest in peace, their unfinished business finally resolved. And here, in the fortress that was once a place of grief and duty, new life grows, proof that even the deepest wounds can heal. Astrid feels a flutter in her belly, the pup moving, restless and eager. She smiles, placing her hand over Kyle's where it rests on her stomach. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new responsibilities. But tonight, this moment is perfect. She is loved. She belongs. And the future stretches ahead full of possibility. The rejected Omega has become Luna. The isolated soul guide has become beloved. And the broken Alpha King has learned to hope again. Their story is far from over. But this chapter ends in peace and promise. The end.